to act now against climate change.
For the first time, global warming has exceeded
climate change.
Climate change.
We are on a fast track to climate disaster.
Climate change is one of the biggest challenges humanity has ever faced. And we ourselves have caused it. So we ought to fix it, right? Or should we? Because according to a certain branch within philosophy, we should stop worrying, sterilize ourselves, and party until Judgment Day. But that's mad. How could anyone come to such a conclusion? Unfortunately, it all makes sense. Let me explain how. The philosophy I'm referring to is a branch within the school of ethics called utilitarianism. This is Jeremy Bentham, the father of utilitarianism. His principle is simple. Nature has placed mankind under the governance of two sovereign masters, pain and pleasure. It is for them alone to point out what we ought to do as well as to determine what we shall do. And it makes perfect sense that our actions should be guided by pain and pleasure, right? If an action causes harm, such as torture, wouldn't we say that it's a bad action? And if another action increases pleasure and happiness in the world, like giving money to the poor or saving someone from drowning, isn't that a good action? But already here we run into problems regarding the climate. Because if our actions are guided only by pleasure and pain, we need to ask ourselves, within what time frame are we talking? Let me elaborate. There are two different views within utilitarianism. First, we have what is called the prior existence view. According to this view, one ought only to increase happiness for beings existing here and now. From a pragmatic standpoint, this certainly makes sense. But when we discuss climate change, it's a terrible idea. Because if one favors this view, it leads us down the road of business as usual, meaning we shouldn't worry about the climate at all. We can just continue with whatever we're doing because that will most likely maximize happiness for those living here and now. But there's another road we can take: sustainability. This would involve making big changes in our way of living, such as stopping meat consumption, banning all fossil fuels, etc., in order to solve the climate crisis. But can we justify this choice from the standpoint of the utilitarian prior existence view? No, I think not, since the sustainability route will force people to change their lives drastically. It would most likely lead to a decrease in happiness and pleasure for all people existing here and now. Therefore, business as usual seems to be the only option if one favors the prior existence view. So maybe we should instead opt for what is called the total view. According to this view, we should maximize pleasure and minimize pain, not only for beings existing now, but also for future beings that will exist. At first glance, this seems to justify the sustainability route, since the pain for us living here and now can be outweighed by the happiness all future beings will experience. The suffering here and now will only last for a couple of generations, while the happiness of future beings can last much longer. Perfect! Now utilitarianism has justified the sustainability road. Or has it? Unfortunately, there's yet another big problem posed by the pessimistic South African philosopher David Benatar. The total view focuses on maximizing pleasure for everyone existing now and future beings. But can we really say that a human life in its entirety is more pleasurable than painful? Probably not. And even if it is more pleasurable, we have further issues. Let me elaborate. Benatar realized that there is an asymmetrical relationship between happiness and suffering. Let's consider two different worlds. Here's world P. In this world, my parents met and had me. Yay! But over here, in world not P, my parents never met, and therefore I was never born. Now, in world P, where I do exist, there is the presence of pain, which is considered bad, but also the presence of pleasure, which is good. But in world not P, where I do not exist, there's a complete absence of pain, which is good, right? The absence of pain is always a good thing, but there's also a complete absence of pleasure, which is not bad, right? So as you can see, according to this diagram, there's an asymmetrical relationship regarding pleasure and pain between existence and non-existence. A world in which one does not exist is simply preferable compared to a world in which one does. Obviously, we shouldn't kill people because that would produce more pain, but we can prevent people from coming into existence. Here, Benatar writes, "Because there is nothing bad about never coming into existence, but there is something bad about coming into existence, all things considered, non-existence is preferable. One implication of my view is that it would be preferable for our species to die out. It would be better if there were no more people. Therefore, it seems we cannot justify the sustainability route, since we're actually producing more pain than pleasure by producing offspring. Instead, this view seems to lead down a third route, party and go. Since producing children results in more pain overall, we should all sterilize ourselves and party like there's no tomorrow until all of humanity is extinct. There actually is a simple solution to this problem if we want to justify the sustainability route. Utilitarianism is commonly a one-value system. The only thing of value is happiness. All else are mere instruments toward happiness. Let's say you're super thirsty on a hot summer day and decide to order a bottle of beer. Then the waiter comes along with an empty bottle. You'd be angry, right? What you valued in that moment was the beer within the bottle, not the bottle itself. This is analogous to utilitarianism. Humans are the bottle, while happiness is the beer within the bottle. Through this view, humans, and indeed other animals as well, are mere containers of possible happiness, instruments to the end of happiness. And if the container is bad, we can discard it. The container is not worth anything in and of itself. But this is one of the reasons why Benatar came to his conclusion. But we could change this by simply abandoning the one-value system and admitting that, for instance, conscious beings have intrinsic value. They are just as valuable as the happiness they can contain. This seems plausible, right? Let's call this view utilitarianism plus. Through this new version of utilitarianism, combined with the total view, I believe that we can justify the sustainability route for real this time. But this is a very hard pill to swallow. The perk of utilitarianism is that it is a one-value system. The moment you have a plurality of values, it's hard to answer the question of how these values should be traded off against each other. How many conscious beings can be traded for one intense pleasure, for instance? To me, this just reveals that utilitarianism is flawed and that we ought to discard it in favor of something else. But what do you think? Can utilitarianism find a way out of Benatar's conclusion? Oh well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I've got some more fun and interesting videos in the pipeline. And thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.